family of a Paris victim, terror victim, are now suing social media companies because they believe that social media outlets like Facebook, Twitter, and Google have created an atmosphere where terrorists, such as those who are part of ISIS, can communicate with one another and also recruit individuals to grow their base. Now, Nohemi Gonzalez was one of the victims of the terror attacks in Paris, and she was actually studying abroad in Paris at the time. She was a student at the Cal State University system here in California. And the lawsuit that they filed in federal court says that the social media companies provide material support to the militant group Islamic State. For years, defendants have knowingly permitted the terrorist group ISIS to use their social networks as a tool for spreading extremist propaganda, raising funds, and attracting new recruits. The lawsuit charged that the company's material support has enabled Islamic State to recruit and to fund and carry out numerous terrorist attacks, including the attack in Paris last November that killed 130 people. So I think that that's actually an interesting lawsuit because I've always wondered why it is that members of ISIS could use these social media outlets or networks to recruit people, right? That was the thing that stood out about ISIS. It was one of the most unique parts of ISIS and their strategy. And I remember reporting on that with Ben. We were like, you know, what makes them different from the Taliban or Al-Qaeda is that they're very tech savvy. Yeah. And why are we allowing them to be tech savvy? But I think that there could be a good side to that, and I'll get to that in just a second. I just want to hear what you guys think.
I feel sorry. I really do feel sorry for the family, but I think this is going to be a really bad precedent, and I hope this goes to a judge that is understanding of both sides. One, I'm very close to a lot of people in Silicon Valley, a lot of people at these places that are being sued right now. This is really bad because this is going to open up a whole Pandora's box of, hate groups suing, people, victims of from the Klan, victims of, radical groups of any type of religious groups or any type of hate groups or anything like that. They do not allow this stuff. They have divisions and people that are constantly looking for this stuff. So it's like inside of Facebook or Twitter, they're shutting down accounts. They've shut down thousands of accounts that happen. But then, what are we doing here? We're playing a cat and mouse game. So ISIS' job and a lot of these radical jobs are, how do we get around the people that are looking for us? So now we have to recreate ways to get in the back door. Yeah. And they have to find those back doors to find them and shut them down as well.
So you're right about Facebook, Twitter, Google, all of these media giants, social media giants going after ISIS and shutting down these accounts. But there's a little bit of an upside of them using the internet, using these social media sites to recruit people, right? Or to spread their message or their propaganda. Can't you use that as intel?
The truth is yes, and that's how it's used. A lot of the ways that you trap terrorists, from what I've learned, is by setting these little interactions online where they've created fake websites and fake profiles, the FBI has, in order to lure these people in, because they have been using the Facebook to radicalize online. So you set up a place that looks much like those. Right. And if you get rid of that avenue, you probably do make it harder for people to radicalize, but you also make it harder to catch them. And that's what this is about. Yeah. This is about not whether Facebook should exist or if it should allow like a handful of sites. This is exactly what Kenny's talking about. The cat and mouse game, finding out whether Facebook is knowingly or Twitter is knowingly allowing these things to go on for perhaps reasons of increasing traffic and revenue. Like, if that's the case, then shut it down.
Right.
And I think that's what we'll get to know. The danger is exposing these traps that are set by the FBI along the way. Yeah. Right. But I think it's worth it. I mean, in one way, this family is suing the world for changing.
Yeah. Like, and here's the difference, though. I mean, when you're talking about harassment and hate speech on social media, that's very different from the terms of service that are already in place that Facebook is exceptionally good.
Which we all read, by the way. I read all of them all the way through before I hit OK.
But you generally know that you can't just go like stalking someone, and they have a lot of, Facebook is very good about shutting those sites down. I will say Anonymous has done a great job this week of attacking and hacking ISIS sites with a bunch of gay porn. It's so good.
Did you see the one with the guy laying like this
I love
in
it.
front of a rainbow ISIS flag? So amazing. It's so
love
perfect.
It is. And so but the problem is Twitter has a huge, long-standing issue with not kind of like helping people in this issue. We saw it a lot with Gamergate, where people felt very attacked by other people on this whole side of like where women stand in video games, and people were we're talking like death threats, like rape threats, like true hate speech being thrown at them, and Twitter would not shut down these accounts.
I've been very open and honest about my disdain for the way Twitter handles certain things, and I'm not an active tweeter. Like I have Twitter because I'm forced to have Twitter. Let's keep it real. Like you're not relevant in the media world unless you have a freaking Twitter account with a number of followers, right? So I have to have it. But do I like Twitter? No, I hate Twitter. I like it as a way to get information. So I like looking at the feed of people that I follow for news. Right. But my mentions, I go out of my way to avoid looking at my mentions. Yeah. That's how bad it is. And
is that why you didn't retweet me the last time?
Damn it.
I probably didn't retweet you, and it's because I don't see a lot of tweets. And that's not to be rude. That's because I got to take care of me and my mental health. And Twitter is honestly like the perfect platform for that type of abuse. It's a way for people that despise me to have direct communication with me. Not interested in that.
Exactly. But is ISIS having a vehicle to recruit people any different than like a pledge drive? It's wrong, but morally, obviously, but is it violating, if you want to look at it from a true like judicial side, is it violating a term of service? Is it violating an agreement? Right. And is this lawsuit, like you said, I worry about what this lawsuit opens up longer down the line. Like this exposes a lot of innocent people to some real big issues that I'm not comfortable with.
I think the important thing to remember is that with any advancement in technology, there is room for abuse. And when the abuse happens, you kind of have to either use it to your advantage to catch the abusers or, find ways to mitigate it as much as possible. And I think that it could be used as a good way of, getting intel about these terrorists abroad and in our own country. And I think that for the most part, these social media giants have done their best to shut down these accounts. I don't think that they're willy-nilly just allowing, members of ISIS to post, beheading videos. I think they're pretty good about taking it down as soon as they're notified about it.